What the 1970s taught us about surviving inflation. Hi, I'm Wolfgang Grey. I created Grey's Horizons to help people see through the noise, understand how the system really works, and build real wealth on their own terms. But before we go any further, I'm not a financial advisor. Nothing on this channel is financial advice. I'm just sharing what I learned, what I've lived, and what's worked for me. You should always do your own research and make decisions based on your own situation. That said, if you're ready to think differently, question what you were told, and start building real freedom, you're in the right place. When I was a kid in the 70s, inflation was brutal. Gas lines, price shocks, tight belts, but people responded with discipline. They cooked at home, patched their clothes, and saved. Wages could still support a family. At least one income did. And when that changed, dual incomes weren't a luxury, they were survival. People cut back, not out of fear, but out of grit. Now, we're drowning in subscriptions, micropayments, dopamine on demand. And calling it freedom, it's not freedom, it's dependency. Let's talk about what the 1970s taught us about surviving inflation and why we're failing the same test today. Inflation in the late 70s peaked over 13%, mortgage rates over 18%, and it was painful. But it also forced people to rethink what wealth really was. They turned to real world assets, gold, real estate, self-reliance. The price of gold is shot up from $35 an ounce in 71 to $800 by 1980. Silver surged too, from $150 to nearly $50 with the Hunt Brothers run. And the gold to silver ratio tightened dramatically, from around 40 to 1 to as low as 15 to 1. That meant silver was gaining ground as fear and inflation grew. And it became clear, when trust in currency fails, scarcity wins. But here's something else people don't talk about enough. Back then, America still made things. Factories were running. Unions were strong. Blue-collar jobs could support a family. One income was often enough. Today, we've outsourced production. We've replaced jobs with apps. We've traded making for marketing. And the middle-class job has been replaced with gig work, remote hustle, and shrinking security. Now, fast forward to 2025. Inflation is officially cooling, but look closer. Prices aren't going down, they're just rising more slowly. Wages still behind. Real purchasing power is stuck in reverse. We're not in full-blown stagflation yet, but the symptoms are creeping in. Sticky inflation, sluggish growth, rising consumer debt, and a public more financially stretched than ever. Gold back above $2,300. Silver around 29 to 30. Still far off its 1980 high. And the gold to silver ratio today around 80 to 1. Let that sink in. In past inflationary cycles, that ratio eventually compressed hard. As silver caught up during crisis moments, the 80 to 1 ratio today is historically wide. And for some, it's flashing a signal. Silver could be significantly undervalued again. And then there's Bitcoin. What gold did in the 70s, Bitcoin began doing after 2020. From under 10,000 to over 70,000. That's not just speculation. That's people opting out of a system they no longer trust. The lesson from the 70s still stands. When fiat loses value, people flee to scarcity. Back then it was gold and land. Today it's gold, Bitcoin, and yes, still land. But here's the twist. Without the industrial backbone we once had, you can't just work your way out the same way your parents or grandparents did. That's why today, more than ever, you need tangible assets. You need discipline, and you need a strategy to play the long game. That's how people survived inflation then, and that's likely how they'll survive what's coming next. Compare that to now. Instead of hedging with assets, most people are bleeding from 20 different apps. They finance their furniture, their food, and even their freedom. But buy now, pay later. for fast food? Yes, that's real. In 2024, Klarna reported that 35% of users were financing food deliveries. People are paying interest on pizza. The truth? We live in an age where it should be easier than ever to build wealth. You can buy gold with a few taps of your fingertips. You can stack Bitcoin from your phone. You can run a freelance business from your kitchen table. That's the promise of modern tech. But the reality, most people aren't building, they're scrolling. Instead of using the tools, we're getting used by them. The algorithm feeds you dopamine. The subscriptions drain your bank account. The notifications shatter your focus. And the convenience quietly replaces your discipline. Back in the 70s, things were harder, but they were also clearer. People knew when to tighten the belt. They could feel inflation in their bones, and they responded with real action. Save, stack, buy land, own gold. Today, the signal is buried under noise. Inflation is masked by delivery discounts. Financial ruin hides behind 0% APR offers, and debt disguises itself as convenient financing. And this is the danger. We've made it easier than ever to do the right thing, but harder than ever to notice when we're doing the wrong one. The 1970s weren't perfect, far from it, but they taught us that survival takes intentionality, and that's the mindset we need now, not to unplug from modern life, but to use it on purpose. We don't need to go back to the Stone Age. We just need to stop letting the noise run our lives. Here's how you fight back without giving up your phone or your freedom. Trim the digital fat. Unsubscribe from that stuff you don't use. Audit your subscriptions. Time box your attention. Set actual hours to scroll, consume, or check social. Control notifications. Turn off non-essential alerts that hijack your focus. Automate your good habits. Set auto transfers into savings, investment accounts, or even precious metals or Bitcoin apps. Learn before you spend. If something is calling for your money or time, stop and ask, is this asset or liability, fuel or fluff? Buy what appreciates, ditch what distracts. Delay gratification, not because it's old school, but because it still works. They didn't have smartphones in the 70s, but they had something even rarer today, discipline. In a world built to hijack your focus, intentionality is a superpower. You don't win by playing the game the system wants you to play. You win by stepping outside of it strategically. And yes, that means saying no to convenience sometimes. Because the easy route, it's usually the most expensive one, long term. Not just in dollars, but in lost time, missed freedom, wasted attention, and wealth that could have been yours. But here's the shift. You don't have to reject convenience. You just have to use it to build, not bleed. Our grandparents didn't have access to Bitcoin or fractional stock investing from their phones, or global knowledge at their fingertips. We do. They built wealth with focus, ownership, and discipline. We can do the same, but now with power tools they never dreamed of. Auto investing, cashback credit cards that pay you if you use them right, free financial education that used to cost a degree, even the ability to earn money in your sleep, but only if you use it with intention. So here's the truth. This system is stacked, but the tools to escape it, they're right in front of you. Use them. Don't be used by them. You've got more tools than any generation before you, but tools don't work if you don't use them. So here's your move. Cut one subscription that drains you. Track just 1 week of spending. Buy one asset instead of swiping for something that won't matter in a week. Build the muscle, take back control, use convenience on your terms, not theirs. And if this hit home, like and subscribe to Grey's Horizons, because we're not just complaining about the system, we're learning how to break free from it. together. I'll see you in the next one.